Two major gaming franchises are powering up to shoot the third installment in the various IP, with one slated to release in December 2026, and yet the other is even yet to release the second part. And also, an African superhero movie received a standing ovation when it premiered in its homeland of Nigeria. I'll be delving into all these stories and more right here on the Film Mandate. My name is Papa Otu. Stay tuned. Well, welcome back to the Film Mandate, where I bring to you movie news, reviews, and reactions, both from the African front and the international scene. And thanks for joining me for this very episode of the Film Mandate. So, we'll be diving into our very first stories, and for all my movie fans and the gaming, video gaming fans, well, I have some interesting story for you, and it is the Jumanji film that will be actually received Greenlit, and it will be heading to production next month. That is November, for a December 2026 release date. And also the second also happens to be a video game, franchise, and that has to do with the Mortal Kombat 3, even though the Kombat 2 has not yet released. And we'll be delving into all these development and more. And last but not the least, for those who are also fans of the superhero, comic book franchise, or just superhero movies, well, there is a new superhero in town, and that is from Nigeria, titled Osamede. So we'll be delving into that wonderful development that has, creating buzz in the film world, particularly from Africa. So we'll be delving into all these stories. So stay tuned as we delve into the very first story. And in our very first story, we have Jumanji 3 being greenlit for October, shoot. And it is quite exciting. Just when we thought perhaps Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson may stay in the indie kind of method acting for quite some time, well, we received this great news that he will be returning to reprise his role for the Jumanji video game franchise. And for all those who have watched the Jumanji 1 to 2, these films were bigger films, box office hits that normally Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is used to. Well, this particular development is captured in the Hollywood Reporter, and this is what the story says: that new Jumanji movie to begin shooting in November. Brittany O'Grady joins returning cast. And this is what it says: that Jumanji is back in gameplay mode as Sony's latest sequel of its hit franchise heads towards a November start of production in Los Angeles. Dwayne Johnson, Kevin Hart, Jack Black, and Karen Gillan are returning to star in the feature, which will once again be directed by Jake Kasdan. It has a release date of December 11th, 2026. One new face in the feature will be Brittany O'Grady, who may be best known for co-starring the first season of Mike White's HBO series, The White Lotus. And Ben Gorman, who has appeared in movies such as Beetlejuice, and The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, is another new face on the roll call. Max Tolmer, Johnson, Danny Garcia, Hiram Garcia, and Kasdan are producing the project, which has been in development under the radar until getting a green light and then hitting sprint mode to production. Plot details are being kept in the console, but it is known that Jeff Pinkner and Scott Rosenberg wrote the script. Jumanji is ostensibly based on the 1981 picture book of the same name by Chris Van Allsburg, and that featured an enchanted board game come to life. That was the general basis of Sony's beloved 1995 movie starring Robin Williams. So that is indeed quite exciting to hear that this the third installment in Jumanji is finally going to take place. And the last one actually took place somewhere in 2019, thereabout, if I'm not mistaken. And since then, we haven't had any progress on the third installment till now. Just as the article said, actually, it's been in development for quite some time, and I'm sure they were trying to work out all the necessary kinks before it is announced to the public. And finally, that has been made public now, and it is quite exciting seeing that this particular franchise has been not just it's been successfully both among critics and also among the fans as seen in the box office receipts, and that is quite huge. If I'm not mistaken, the very first one made over $960 million. Just about less than $40 million shy to a billion. And also, the second one actually didn't perform as well, but equally good. Made over $800 million. So this franchise is actually a bona fide property, a property that stands to, draw audiences to the cinema from the boisterous, macho charm of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, as well as the comedic chops of both Kevin Hart and Jack Black, and the nimble, athletic, and acrobatic skill set of Karen Gillan. So these four people sort of complement each other so well in a movie franchise that is really very powerful, if I should put it that way. The very first one was made somewhere in the 80s by I think it starred Robin Williams. I mean, may he so rest in peace. But these were movies that really in its reboot has gained quite some notoriety and having people loving what they were able to put forward. As to really the exact reason why, perhaps from the first one, Welcome to the Jungle, that is the Jumanji one in 2017, to the second one, The Next Level, as to what caused the dip in the box office, I cannot tell. But to make $800 million is nothing to I mean, it is really a good amount of money they've made. Hopefully, maybe with this particular new one, they may bounce back to even perhaps a billion, which I can't really ascertain whether that is going to be possible or not. But it is indeed a good news to hear that they are moving forward on this project, seeing that we live in an era where it looks like a lot of movie projects now are based on video games. We have what's it called? We have the Minecraft the movie making quite a splash at the box office, even though this happened to be the very first time it was adapted into a movie. And Jack Black actually features in that one. So maybe he's going to bring a bit of that same audience to the Jumanji franchise that he is an integral part of. And besides, they are not only them, but we also have returning stars of Danny DeVito in the second one and Danny Glover in the second one as well. So that brings back the old, those who are old fans of Danny and, the both Dannys, together with the new fans of the lead actor. So that would be quite interesting to see. But it seems that perhaps audiences nowadays are more open to what the video game franchises has to offer. I mean, from the Mario Brothers movies that have made over $1 billion to Minecraft movie, even the one that the Mortal Kombat, which happened to it didn't make as big a money as these two did, but even though audiences have had a little issue with the first one, they still liked it all the same. So it looks like we live in an era now where audiences are more open to the comic book era or season as it stands now. Perhaps the comic book era may be taken over now from the superhero, the superhero comic book movies that we've been seeing and have been part of for almost 2 decades. So that is quite an interesting thing to know. Currently, they've not revealed they've not revealed any plot details, but I should I should think that maybe they may be building upon the first two and find out how, maybe steer to a different direction that is quite different, but perhaps clearly connected to the other two. You might even say that the third one may be the fourth in the installation because the second one loosely or in a way connected to that of Robin Williams' Jumanji, which was set up, which was made in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. So, however, depending on how you look at it, this actually may be the fourth in the installment of the Jumanji franchise. But personally, I'm excited that we're having this, franchise move forward. And I particularly did enjoy the part two, seeing how how interesting, the whole story went. For me, it was quite exciting. I don't know about you, but let me know what you think with regards to this particular film. The new Jumanji, bringing back Danny DeVito and Danny Glover. What other classic characters or actors would you love to see, stumble into the game? Whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comments section below. So moving on from one gaming franchise to another, and just as I've already hinted at, well, one game actually was supposed to have released this year. One movie game franchise was supposed to have released, a sequel to the first one this year. However, with the trailer, releasing to the public, it looks like the studio thought it wise to rather push it into next year's summer season. Well, I'm talking about none other than the Mortal Kombat franchise. And already there are conversations going on. The cast and director happened to be at New York Comic Con, and they revealed that a third part has been greenlit, and they are very excited about it. And that is quite interesting to note. So let's take a quick look at the Hollywood Reporter article that captured what they had to say. So Mortal Kombat 3 greenlit as director and cast talk sequel expectations and delay at NYCC. The team behind Mortal Kombat 2 appeared Saturday night to talk about the sequel's blockbuster energy and IMAX release, while revealing a third installment is already in the works. So, Mortal Kombat 2 screenwriter Jeremy Slater revealed that New Line and Warner Brothers have already greenlit the next film at the end of the sequel's Saturday New York Comic Con panel, telling the excited crowd to show up to theaters next summer and make sure they know there's an audience for this movie because we want to keep making them for you guys. Slater was on hand Saturday alongside director Simon McCoy and sequel cast members Carl Urban, Adeline Rudolph, Tati Gabrielle, and Martin Ford, where they talked sequel delays and what fans can expect out of the next chapter. McCoy, who took the question about the movie's release shift from October to May 16, 2026, said the sequel was delayed as a result of being a victim of our own success. That's quite an interesting way to put it. So every time people have seen this movie, it's gained momentum. The director continued, we've created a massive summer blockbuster. So I think we should all be proud of the fact that Mortal Kombat and the franchise itself is going to kick off next year. Yes, we have to wait, but it's going to feel massive when it comes out. And I think it's quite an interesting take as to the reason why perhaps the movie itself was delayed. But it is quite interesting to see how successful Warner Brothers has been, putting out one movie after the other. And a lot of eyebrows were raised on the fact that when everybody were so hyped about Mortal Kombat 2, with the release of the trailer, all of a sudden they had to pull it out of the cinema schedule or theater schedule for this year and move it to next year. So it got a lot of people worried. However, haven't seen the continuous success of Mike DeLuca and Pam Abdi, who are co-chiefs of Warner Brothers Motion Picture Group. I mean, and this particular franchise is under their control. It really points to the fact that they know what they are doing strategically. They feel it will be better suited for next year's what's it called, beginning the summer box office, time. So it is quite an interesting choice for them, for them to have made this decision to rather shift it to next year. The question then would be, are they not going to spend extra money in trying to market this whole particular thing all over again and regenerate that excitement all over again? And that is something I don't know whether it's going to cost them that much whatsoever. But regardless, it looks like there could be a winning formula there. That is why they might have pushed it to next year. So regardless of whatever, I mean, for them to have even gone ahead to greenlit, the third part already, even when the second has not released, perhaps one of the reasons could be that it might have tested well with the audiences, with the test groups. And as a result of that, maybe they might, or they think it is best suited for a summer release date rather than any other, dates or the previous date they had in mind. So that would be quite interesting to see. But none of us can deny the box office record that Warner Brothers have been able to release one after the other, seeing that for 7 movies in a row, they've had each of those movies open to more than $40 million successively, a result that no other studio in Hollywood has achieved to date. So it proves that perhaps they know what they are doing. They know why they are moving some of these movies around, in the deck to get the best, results possible box office wise, and hopefully maybe critically as well. So that is quite interesting to know. But it is great to hear that you are having, they are trying to get a script right as well, and getting some of these, those behind the scenes who worked on the second coming back. So it is interesting to see. And Carl Urban seems to be a box office, not necessarily a big box office draw, but in terms of bringing attention to a project, he seems to be one of the, in the superhero space, that is for those who watch The Boys in particular, perhaps he seems to draw some clouds one way or the other. So bringing him to this bit is quite interesting. And I like what the director, McCoy, said about this particular production, that when it comes to a story like what we've seen, Johnny Cage in the video game is a little different from what the aim to achieve with the second part. And he did say something about, let me just read a exact quote so that I don't misquote him necessarily. But he did say something very interesting that I thought it makes sense in this, trying to build a story arc for a character. It does work so well, and he understands how best to let the audiences be endeared to the character. So this is what he had to say. Okay, I'm missing the exact point. Pardon me. So he did say something about the character in the game already being established, having everything in the world. So rather, he begins the story, Johnny Cage, who which is being played by Carl Urban. He begins his life like a washed out, action star who seems to not have anything better going for him. And then when the tournaments and all the challenges begin, that is when we begin to see him evolve into that gaming character that we all so love. So, and that's actually makes so much sense if you want to build, a character arc for a story, for a character, have him develop from a low end to now realizing who he is. That is quite interesting to see. And from what we saw in the trailer, for those who happen to watch the trailer, you could see that they introduced a lot of, quips and comedic chops in there one way or the other. So it will have a well balance of what's it called, the gritty nature of how the game presents itself, as well as some, a comedic aspect to it. In as much as this may have, in a way, it's quite a four quadrants film, but not necessarily tailored for. I don't know whether it will be rated PG-13, seeing the violence they will be introducing. So I don't know how the approach would be, but then they try to present a whole full course, for lack of a better word, meal in the Mortal Kombat 2 with all the finishing moves that can be seen in the game, also introduced in this particular one. And one thing I liked about this particular um, installment in the franchise is the fact that they want to flesh out the realms. Just as we saw in the Mortal Kombat 1, I think the fights that happened between Sub-Zero and Scorpion, that beginning actually held the story very well for the part 1 as compared to, some of the plot elements that people really complain about, particularly with the core character being introduced. So if the focus is to flesh out the realms and focus more on the tournaments, and then between each tournament still have some task, for the characters and keep the momentum going on the high note, then I think that is quite an interesting, ride we will have when we enter into the cinema and watch what they have in store for us. So that would be quite an interesting thing to do. And hopefully, I'm sure they learned from what audiences didn't like about the first one and made sure that this one doesn't have such pitfalls as well. So I know a lot of you fans are waiting eagerly to see how this would be different from the 2021 film that we saw in the in the first one. And we're still going to have returning cast members like the guy who played Louis Tan, Ko Young. I mean, sorry, the guy who plays Ko Young, that's Louis Tan, and Jessica McNamee, that is a Sonya Blade character, also returning as well. And I feel like in as much as most people might not have liked the Cole character, it still has some interesting backstory in a way, and his powers or abilities seems to be something interesting, and I'm sure they will sort of crank it up a little bit more even in the sequel that we are yet to see. So let me know what you think about this particular video game. Do you think it's going to be the best video game movie of all time? And then what does a video game adaptation need to earn that title for you? What does it have to do to end, that title for you? So whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comments section below. So moving on from the world of video game adaptations into the movie scope or realm, we now come to Africa, where we are having our foray in a major movie, a superhero character. And that is quite exciting to note, because when we talk about superhero movies, most often than not, all we hear of superhero films are those adapted from the comic book, from the comic books that have been in existence for years, some close to 100 years, and it's quite interesting to know. But well, there's now a new superhero on the block, and her name is Osamede, and Osamede happens to be the titular character of the movie Osamede, and that is her in your shot. So quickly, we'll take a quick read at the Nigerian News Agency of Nigeria, who published covered the event that happened in Benin, in Nigeria, the Benin city in Nigeria. So quickly, we'll take a quick read as to what happened. So this is what it says. The superhero movie Osamede received standing ovation premiere in Benin. It says that a superhero film, Osamede, depicting aspects of the 1897 British invasion of Benin Kingdom, received a standing ovation at its premiere in Benin. The producers say Osamede is a young woman who discovered the ancestral warrior powers of her people during the 1897 British invasion of her homeland. They said the film positioned the authentic African history as the foundation for contemporary superhero storytelling. The premiere brought together cultural leaders, government officials, film industry stakeholders, and representatives from Fuga and Ososo communities where the film was shot. The premiere was held with the support of the state government, led by Dr. Munirat Lekki, Senior Special Assistant to the Edo Governor on Tourism and the Creative Economy. The audience rose to their feet as the credits rolled, with many visibly moved by seeing their history and language celebrated on screen. Bringing Osamede home to Benin was always the dream, said executive producer Lillian Olubi, herself a daughter of Edo. Today proved why this story needed to be told. People cheered. They saw themselves as heroes for the first time. That's what happens when you tell your own story in your own language. The director, James Omokwe, said he collaborated with Benin cultural historians to ensure the film accurately represented the kingdom's legacy. The applause today wasn't just for a film, it was for its recognition and validation. The people of Edo have been waiting to see their history treated with the respect it deserves. We gave them that, Omokwe said. Lead actress Ivy Okujaye Egbo, who played Osamide, described the screening as the most meaningful moment of her career, playing a Benin warrior in the actual kingdom surrounded by descendants of those warriors. I felt the weight of every scene. When the audience stood and applauded, I knew we had honored the ancestors. Egbo said. William Benson, who played Iyase, Osamide's nemesis, said the Benin reception exceeded expectations. You could feel the pride in the room. Beyond the entertainment, this was about people seeing their power reflected back at them. That's rare, Benson said. Mr. Munirat Lekki, Senior Special Assistant to the Edo Governor on Tourism and Creative Economy, praised the film as a model for a cultural preservation through entertainment. Osamide demonstrates how authentic storytelling can drive cultural tourism and economic development. This film will bring people to Edo State and to spark our young people's curiosity about their heritage. That is the kind of cultural investment we need. So indeed, every one of those stakeholders who attended the event and who were integral parts of the story itself seems to really, feel the love that was showered on them by the people who watched the film. And that is quite exciting and interesting to see. And I'm excited about this because oftentimes most films we have produced, they really stay within the drama aspect of the African culture. And most often it has to do with romantic comedy. Sometimes we delve a little bit into the mythology or mysticism or maybe faith-based stories. But this time around, it looks like we are delving into what the pop culture lexicon demands today, the world over. And one of the prominent genres, well, we can term it as a genre on its own, is a superhero movie. The magnificent success of Marvel films from over 2 decades now. So that is quite interesting to see. And not just them, but also other, like comic book movies from other studios as well, like DC and other places. But lately, it looks like from the African continent, we also want to tell our own stories the best way we can. And perhaps that might have been inspired largely to how Black Panther was successful, and one way or the other has made us know that we have much stories to tell. But I know some of the challenges has always been either financial or not having the necessary requisite technology to be able to catch up with it. So I like the fact that Africa's biggest film industry, that is Nigeria, is pursuing this one way or the other. And that is quite exciting to note. And just as they said, The Osamede film is inspired by history, so historical drama inspiring what this whole story is going to be about. If you happen to watch, if you get opportunity to watch the trailer, it gives a little bit vibe of The Woman King starring Viola Davis. But at the same time, you watch it, due to some of the effects that was done in it in the trailer, which I'm hoping it is top notch because that is where most often it has been the bane of African cinema, not having visual effects that are so spot on that it feels very natural, feels very real to the world that it exists in. But a little bit of the powers of the titular character, that is Osamide, the one you can see on the screen, it gives a little vibe of is it a Storm of X-Men. But then in the trailer, much wasn't revealed apart from the fact that it looks like she has some sort of fighting skills in the martial arts, and she's facing off. Is it is her nemesis is a year or so. Let me bring his image in here. So it looks like he'll be facing his nemesis, her nemesis, this gentleman on screen. So even the whole ideology of pitting a female protagonist against a male antagonist feels very akin to what was achieved in The Woman King. And I don't know much about the historical aspect of it. Maybe the characters in there are real but adapted or loosely adapted for the screen to elevate it to the status of a superhero film. So it is quite interesting, and I'm glad the audiences loved it because audiences nowadays are quite sophisticated, and if your film don't perform to the standard they expect, you wouldn't even receive a, a congratulatory message, let alone a standing ovation. So obviously, it speaks of something good coming from the industry in Africa with regards to a superhero story. And I like the adaptation using the backdrop of our culture and history to tell a superhero story, which is quite unique because that is all we have. That is how unique we are from other cultures, from other continents around the world. So to have this movie being adapted for the screen is quite exciting. And I think, let me check the date. So it premiered, the film actually, after having premiered in the Edo State in, it didn't state the time it premiered, but it will also be, actually, it just premiered just past weekend in Lagos. That is on Sunday in Lagos, October 12th, while the nationwide release in Nigerian cinemas will be on October 17th. So that is quite interesting. And I'm glad you're having a worldwide release as well, but the international release will start with the UK, and that's the theatrical release will be in the UK on October 31st, and also a North American release on November 7th, all being distributed by the Nile Entertainment Group. So they will be handling the global distribution. I'm sure soon enough they will roll out an entire global distribution plan, particularly and hopefully in Africa here, and to get to know what the trail they are blazing with regards to African superheroes to the level that they sort of have achieved it in. So let me know what you think with regards to African superheroes coming into the limelight. And what myth or legend from your own country or culture would make a great superhero movie, particularly if you're from Africa? So whatever your thoughts may be, kindly leave it in the comment section below. These wraps up my 3 stories for the day, but as usual, having returned from the holidays, from the weekend, definitely went to the cinemas to watch some movies. And what I do every time is to bring to you how much money they made in the box office. So starting from the from the North American box office, we go to the Box Office Mojo website to check the top 10 films and how much they have made this past weekend. So starting from Tron Ares, we have $33.5 million. And number two, releasing for the first time as well, is Roofman, starring Channing Tatum. The Tron Ares starred Jared Leto, but Roofman starred Channing Tatum, and it has made $8 million. And number three, dropping from number two, we have One Battle After Another, making $6,675,000, which adds to the total domestic in North America, $54,500,962. And number four, and still staying there, is Gabby's Dollhouse, the movie, making $3,350,000, and a total domestic of $26,432,395. Soul on Fire, which is a faith-based film released by, I think, Sony, or distributed by Sony. We have $3 million for its first opening. At number six, dropping from number five, we have The Conjuring Last Rites, and it has made $2,935,000, and a total domestic of $172,442,072. And number seven, dropping from number six, the Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the movie Infinity Castle. It's made $2,250,000, and a total North American domestic of $128,637,106. Dropping from number three to number eight is The Smashing Machine, and it has made $1,796,992, and a total domestic of $9,807,449, and that is the Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt directed by, starring this film directed by Benny Safdie. And number nine, dropping from number eight, is The Strangers, Chapter 2. It has made $1,550,201, and a total domestic of $13,498,000. Number 10, dropping from number nine, is Good Boy. It has made $1,360,000, and a total domestic of $4,863,007. So this is the domestic box office. Let's quickly go ahead and take a look at the total global revenue for the films in this year. Let's take a look at the top 10. And starting with the top 10, we still seem to have the same list of films. The only difference is the addition of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, which has made $648,106 worldwide, and it seems to be climbing faster than expected. Whether it's going to catch up with number four, Jurassic World Rebirth, that is left to be seen. That would mean it has to make $200 million and some change to be able to overtake the Jurassic World Rebirth. But obviously, it looks like it will not be able to catch up with Minecraft movie unless it has some incredible legs. And it looks like The Conjuring Last Rite is climbing up faster. That is from number 11. And so the films that have dropped from the top 10 since this whole shuffle began is Captain America, Brave New World, and Thunderbolts. Sinners was also among the top 10, but it has dropped as well. And it looks like Conjuring has mounted up with F1, the movie, as well. So it looks like soon enough, other ones may drop off the list if Conjuring Last Rites, keeps moving at the rate it is. It may overtake the Fantastic Four. So this happens to be the top 10 films in the worldwide box office from NASA 2, Lilo and Stitch, a Minecraft movie, Jurassic World Rebirth, Demon Slayer, How to Train Your Dragon, F1 the movie, Superman, Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning, and the Fantastic Four First Steps. So this brings me to the end of today's episode of the Film Mandate. I hope you enjoyed yourselves, and thanks so much for joining me for this episode. I'll be coming your way again with some exciting news as well tomorrow, the same time, 11:45 p.m. GMT, live on YouTube. My name is Papa Otu, and this has been the Film Mandate. I'll see you soon.